Now, every service will have a short testimony in the beginning. I'm really grateful for Alex for sharing his story. And you said, you actually didn't focus on the topic. You're very much focused on the topic, how God worked and how God guided you. And so you might already think maybe it's you who has something to share next service about how God worked in your life. Because it's really, and that's very much related to our topic today, substantial revival. You might have realized that it's not only 120 years since the Ulsa Treaty that was mentioned, right? It was this treaty where Korea was became a Japanese protectorate, really, and it had, as we understand from the divine principle, a big role in preparing Korea as a sort of indemnity that Korea had to pay on a national level as a nation. But 120 years ago, also something else happened around here. In these areas, what happened?
Welsh revival,
the Welsh
Swansea.
revival was also took place 120 years ago. And I think this year has something special in store. And centered, of course, on the words that True Mother used, our founder, our True Mother used at the beginning of her New Year's message, that it's the time to attend substantially our Heavenly Parent. I thought substantial revival is the right topic for first Welsh service this year. And I would like to reflect together with you on this word, substance. Right? True Father, in his autobiography, he mentions when he moved from the countryside into Seoul, when he tried to experience everything, right? He tried to experience the highs and the lows, poverty and also luxury. And one of the luxuries as a student, I think he had to save for several weeks to be able to afford it, was a rice dish, a sweet rice dish, a rice cake. And he describes it in his autobiography. So I saved all this money over several weeks to be able to get that fancy rice cake. And once he bought the rice cake, he bit into it, and he realized it was actually empty. It was hollow. There was only air in it. It didn't fill his stomach at all. It was sort of a great disappointment that the young Reverend Moon experienced after going into this fancy shop, living in poverty, saving for several weeks to get that rice cake, buying that rice cake, and being utterly disappointed in it. It was a precious experience. And it has to do with our topic today, with what is substance. What is substance in life? What is substance in attending our Heavenly Parent? So, of course, our core text in this unification movement is the divine principle. And in the divine principle, it also talks about this term, substance, in sort of three different ways. For once, there is that every change, everything new that comes into the world in three stages. There is symbol, image, and substance is what the divine principle says. And that's a good advice for our own life. So things start out symbolically. When we start, I want to become a new person, right? I might shave my beard. Or, shaving the beard, for example, is a symbol for an external symbol for an internal change that takes place. And then maybe, starting with the symbol, or maybe I grow the beard to become a new person. That's another way to do it. But the point is, it is a symbol that helps us enter into something new. Right? It's not the change yet. I'm not different than before, but the symbol signifies a new start. And so it's actually good at the beginning of a year to make certain symbolic deeds that signify transformation, that signify a new start. Then comes image. Image can be compared, I don't have just the symbol or the dream anymore, or just the vision anymore, but I actually move on towards something like a plan. I sit down and write down how this new person is and looks like, right? What it actually concretely means, more in detail, moving beyond the symbol. But actually, if you just move to the plan without the symbol, sometimes some strength is actually missing, some energy, some of the mythological power of the symbol is missing for us to really move on and make that new start. And the third stage is, of course, substance, becoming what I'm proclaiming. And substance has very much to do in the divine principle understanding. It's not just words, it's also deeds. It's not just mind, but it's also the body. It's not just me and my relationship with God, but it's also my real character that comes out in my relationship to others. Because also the second point where the word substance comes in the divine principle is when we talk about the foundation of faith and the foundation of substance, of course, right? So faith is God and me, that relationship, that the dream, that deep personal encounter with God. But the divine principle is very clear. Actually, the goal of all this, the foundation of faith, is a stepping stone to become substantially who we are meant to be, to substantiate our character. And the best way to do this, or the only way to do this, is by building the foundation of substance, which is in my relationship with others. My real character doesn't come out just within myself, just in my relationship with God. So that's the second meaning of substance. Substance is the end point of symbol image substance. And the second point is it's in relationship with others, because only in relationship with other human beings I become real, my character becomes substantial. And the third meaning really related to this, and it was very nice that we had Alex's testimony today, is we talk about substantial salvation. In the English divine principle, this is translated as also physical salvation. Right? We teach that Jesus brought spiritual salvation, but through the marriage blessing, when husband and wife come together in God's blessing, they actually give rebirth to each other physically. We receive the holy wine from parents physically. This is still more of an image. But then in that relationship, in that unity as a couple, over a lifetime, we give rebirth to each other substantially. In the English translation it says physical salvation, but I think the word substantial salvation is a better explanation about what exactly we as a family federation are about. Building these blessed families, these ideal families, and this is also ideal with my life, ideal with the circumstances we're facing, to become these substantial people. So far, the dream, the vision about attending substantially, right? But I think these three meanings that the divine principle gives really help me to deeper understand what Mother means when she talks about let us attend Heavenly Parent substantially. So, of course, in our life and this course towards realizing this substance is something very earthy and very grounded. I heard a pop song. I heard a pop song this morning, and maybe you know it because I'm terribly bad at knowing any pop singers. But the refrain said something like this: you need to go through the mud to get clean. It's a funny expression, but you need to walk through the mud to get clean. So, when you talk about substantial revival, when you talk about the realization of that, there are many ups and downs and lows, and we're not talking about an ideal that is far away, somewhere on the other end of life, right? We're talking about this ideal by dealing really with the challenges and with the circumstances that we are facing very real. And I was very moved by Alex, what you shared today. Actually, through all these up and downs, you actually realize that God's plan for you hasn't changed, right? He had something better prepared, and actually, even if you felt it was going down, actually God's promise for you on the other end was building up. And in that sense, it was a preparation for something new. And so I hope as we now go into this new year, as I share with you kind of this high ideal of attending, coming into the presence of God substantially, you can see everything, whatever is going on right now, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to say, as the building blocks and building stones exactly towards the one. Sometimes revival is likened to a fire, right? Some fire that starts burning. And we at home in our house, we have now a little fireside. And it's very interesting when you realize, how do you start a fire? What do you put in first? A big logs?
Kindling.
No. What do you start off with to start a fire?
Twigs.
Paper. First paper, then maybe some sawdust. Also, ideally then, you can use I don't know, the Amazon box that you just found in your house. You're ripping it up and putting it in a little thing. So you need to make sure that enough air, that enough oxygen is of course coming through it. And then sometimes you can get very excited, right? You put a lot of newspaper into the fire, and then you light it up, and you say, "Whoa, such a great fire!" for like 3 seconds, right? This is sometimes the problem with revivals, including the Welsh revival 120 years ago. They actually didn't last very long.
4 years.
Yeah. For the Evan John Roberts, one of the key figures there, he lasted about 1.5 years, and then he had burnout. Burnout, in that sense, and withdrew, right? Because of physical and emotional exhaustion, it says on his Wikipedia page. And so, when we talk about substantial revival, I think we need, with our own lives and with our own spiritual lives, we need to be wise, right? We can't start with putting in the huge logs, because then we can fire up, and nothing happens, and we get depressed, but nothing firing up. But we also need to be wary of, we cannot keep the fire sort of burning just on paper and Amazon boxes, right? It will not really give warmth. It will just create a lot of ash. It will fly around and make our house dirty. And it's not really there to last and bring warmth to others, right? So as we start into the new year, let us reflect, what is our paper, spiritual paper for our spiritual fire? Please, I invite you to think about it. What are the things that need to get going when the fire is out, right? What is the little newspapers that I can crumple up to spark? Anyway, where the spark can actually meet, where it really only takes a spark to get a fire going, right? But then, what are the little twigs, right, or the nicely chopped off smaller logs that I've not logs, but how do you call these things? The kindling that I put in, right? And then, when is the time actually to start putting on the big logs, right? And then maybe the fire goes down a bit, but I'm actually working on the big logs. And once the big log is on fire, it actually can give warmth for a longer time. This might be one way, of course, is to get to more substance in our spiritual life, is connecting more to other people, starting to take responsibility when you are already in your own personal spiritual life, sort of. Anyway, you don't need to be super settled if you have just something going, right? It's not nothing. So then one step to add a log is actually empathy and starting to really care for someone else. Right? That's in the spiritual training after fundraising, right? It's God and me and the product. Next step is actually the witnessing part, caring for another person and allowing the other person's concerns to become my concerns. That's a big log, right? And if I don't have some kindling in my fire, it might actually quench or put the fire out, right? If I put the big log in. But if I miss the point to put the big log in, right, the fire burns down again and disappears. So caring more deeply for another person and letting their problems become my concern, not my problems. They don't need to become my problems, but my concern is one way of doing exactly that. Another way, and usually it's like this. God knows, our mind knows, our spirit knows, or we feel it within ourselves when it's time actually to start more deeply attending, caring, and letting other people's concerns become my concern. You can trust your conscience, you can trust your inner guide to feel and realize what the next thing is you need to keep your spiritual fire burning and to strengthen it, to make it more substantial, to be able to put bigger logs in. Right? And we have the experience when the fire is actually big, you can take a really quite wet piece of wood even. You can put it in, and of course it cracks a bit because all the water in the wood evaporates, but it dries out and it can burn. And so we are in our own spiritual journey at different stages, right? And there is no one size
fits all
solution for what you need to put into your spiritual fire. But I encourage you to very deeply and thoughtfully think about it. What is it? What is your next step? Do you need a twig? Do you need more kindle? Do you need a bigger log now to actually become more substantial in your spiritual journey? And substance again means it is very much related to physical, real, visible in our understanding. Moving away from thinking, taking responsibility. For someone it might be taking responsibility for a pet. For others it's taking responsibility for another person. For another is opening my house up for others to come in and making this nice, substantially nice. Anyway, and there's many, many more things that I cannot think right now. So I encourage you to exactly ask yourself this question as we move into the new year. For Mother, of course, her substantial offering this year has to do with the palace, with the John Won Goon. That might be very far from what we feel. Many of us might not feel, actually, a nice temple. a nice big temple with artwork that can last over thousands of years because it's made of mother of pearl rather than paint on the wall or something mural, but actually something that can last 1,000 years. That's not our concern right now, right? Anyway, don't want to offend. Maybe it's someone's main concern here right now, but it's not all of everyone's main concern, right? We're not thinking about the next 1,000 years and millions of people in the future coming to a place to experience God. That's not our main concern right now. That would be, if we take that log into our fire, it might quench it, so to speak, right? It doesn't mean it's not her genuine, true and really deep calling at this time to prepare a place for the next thousands of years. And of course, and she needs people who can help her a bit, and we are all invited to help her a bit. But that's it for her, and let's do our best to support that. But let us make sure the big logs not to quench our fire, and choose the right ones that can really keep that revival up within ourselves and revive us step by step. Because then if these flames really come together, and we could feel it a bit this morning, when we come together with all our little flames and offer them up here in our Sunday gathering, we can see the future. We can see the power that we have together of bringing warmth and light into this world. So with this, I invite you to think about this personally and join in together for a substantial revival here in Wales, 120 years on.